Welcome to NMS. Today we're going to talk about the benefits and risks of the carnivore diet. So what is the carnivore diet? Really, a carnivore diet is based around eating an all-animal food diet, including meat, fish, eggs, and sometimes dairy. Basically, it excludes plants, grains, fruits, vegetables, legumes, nuts, and seeds, and obviously anything that is sort of processed foods. It's a ketogenic style diet with an ultra-low carbohydrate, and the fat generally comes from the meat sources, although it can come from obviously cooking the meat in some sort of fatty product. Okay, it might be oil, it might be butter. Okay, a lot of the time they do actually use butter. So what does the carnivore diet achieve metabolically? This has the body burning fats and ketones instead of glucose. High protein intake supports satiety, muscle preservation, and high thermic effect of food, because when you do eat more proteins, you do actually get a higher thermic effect of food. You do burn more calories in order to actually metabolize it. So the elimination effect, by removing all plant foods, it actually eliminates common triggers like gluten, fiber, lectins, FODMAPs, etc., which people report helps with digestive autoimmune conditions. So other reported advantages: weight loss and appetite control. So a high protein and fat increased satiety, reduced cravings, and lower total fat and calorie intake. So similar to a ketogenic diet in early fat loss effects. So similar to, I guess, the first stages of, say, a ketogenic diet. Like, for example, a lot of the early ketogenic diets used to actually have mostly meat, and then introduce vegetables, and then they introduce more carbohydrates. So there are metabolic improvements in the short term, may lower blood glucose and HbA1c in some individuals, especially those with insulin resistance, and especially if there's weight loss. So there are anecdotal reports of reduced inflammation, improved mental clarity, and energy stability. Simplicity due to no need for calorie counting or food variety. Some people find it easier to follow because the rules are strict and very simple. GI symptoms relief in some people with IBS, IBD, or autoimmune condition relief when plant foods are removed. That is, if the plant foods are the problems. So the disadvantages and risks. Lack of high quality evidence, number one. Very few clinical trials, and most data comes from case reports, surveys, or self-reporting. No long-term safety RCTs, unlike Mediterranean and even ketogenic diets. Micronutrient deficiencies such as low vitamin C, vitamin K, folate, magnesium, potassium, and fiber, because a lot of these comes from vegetable sources. Some argue organ meats can provide missing nutrients, but many followers eat mostly muscle meat, so there's no real organ meat in it. Cardiovascular concerns from high intake of saturated fat and cholesterol, with possible increases in LDL-C in many followers, but HDL and triglycerides may improve. Now, there was a study recently that showed that lean people who did actually follow a ketogenic style diet still increased in a maintenance or slight surplus their actual cholesterol levels. So the long-term impact on CVD events is unknown, because it's obviously, this diet has not been around long. Gut health can be compromised from lack of dietary fiber, and there may be an alteration of gut, the microbiome, producing short-chain fatty acid production. In other words, because the gut bacteria actually feeds on fiber and produces short-chain fatty acids, you may not get this. So the health benefits for your cellular lymphatic system can be lost. This could negatively affect your colon health over time. Sustainability and adherence to it is hard, as it's very restrictive in social situations. Psychological challenges make long-term adherence difficult. So what is the current evidence? In a 2021 survey study of approximately 2,000 participants, many reported well-being, weight loss, and metabolic health, but it relied on reported data without medical verification. So in other words, they didn't do any sort of blood testing and so forth to see that there was actually improvement in health markers. No larger RCTs or random control testing. So random control studies normally look at, it might be worth comparing it with, say, a non-carnivore diet to a carnivore diet, okay, to test whether it actually has health benefits. So it's yet to actually be tested on randomized human control trials, okay? So summary, potential upsides: weight loss, satiety, elimination diet affects blood sugar improvement in the short term. Downsides: unknown long-term safety, potential nutrient deficiencies, cardiovascular risk, and lack of strong evidence. Compared to the Mediterranean, calorie-controlled, and the ketogenic diets, the carnivore diet has the weakest scientific report. What I will say is I do actually watch a lot of these different sort of people who are influencers within the fitness industry, and I can tell you that the person who named themselves Carnivore Doctor was on a carnivore diet for a while, actually went off the carnivore diet because they reported having problems, digestive problems, lower testosterone levels, and skin rashes. So obviously there's going to be nutrient deficiencies in this, and obviously missing out on things like fiber, which has shown to be benefits for health, is going to be a long-term problem. Thanks for listening, guys. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I'm going to leave this video on YouTube, and I'm going to do cut versions on different platforms. Thanks for listening.